Johannesburg, we go to Cape Town, where a disturbing incident at a local school, Milnerton High School, where a video surfaced showing a grade 10 pupil being violently assaulted by older learners wielding hockey sticks, belts, and hose pipes. And this has ignited national outrage. 8 older boys have been suspended and faced disciplinary hearings. But this case has also raised urgent questions for the rest of the continent, where learners older than 18 are involved in school violence. Does this criminal justice system step in to too quickly or too little? And what happens to younger children if bullying cultures are not truly checked? Well, joining us to explore the deeper issues of justice, school safety, and alternatives to criminalisation is equal education researcher Yolisa Piliso, and her organization campaigns for quality, equality, and safety in South Africa's school. Yolisa, thank you very much indeed for joining us. I said she, but he. Good morning to you.
Good morning, and good morning to your viewers as well.
Yeah, so let's start with this. I mean, you as an organization, your main concern is that criminal charges against these learners may not be the right response to what's happened. Can you explain why you think that?
Yeah, so the first thing in our call, because we've been working on the safety of learners, and particularly in the Western Cape, and we've engaged DBE, Western Cape Education Department's policies, then as far as it deal with disciplining and with safety of learners in schools. So I think the main call for us has always been how do we ensure that we make use of the existing policies that the DBE and the WCD has in relation to deal with learners that are maybe facing some transgressions into the schools. But what we know for sure is that policies in schools are, and even in line with the South African Schools Act, they promote positive discipline and ensuring that these learners are retained in school, ensure that their right to basic education is not infringed as a result of their own conduct.
Mm,
Because essentially here we're dealing with a systemic challenge, which is bullying and violence by children. But importantly, we must not view children as perpetrators only, but children as victims of society and the places that they come from, even
mm,
their homes and the schools that they're schooling in. So it's not necessarily a very good decision to just chastise learners and immediately criminalize them, whereas you're able to use school policies that will ensure that those learners are rehabilitated inside schools and ensure their right to basic education continues, and ensure that they are also protected as
mm.
well in light of their conduct.
You've used some really nice words, and some people might even accuse you of sanitizing what actually happened. The reality is, you keep calling them children, but 6 of those 8 are not children. They're adults. They're 18 plus, and the criminal justice system sees them as adults because they've got the capacity to think for themselves and make proper decisions. Criminal liability, right? So
Mm.
now you've got adults beating up children in schools. And what you're saying is we should treat them like children just because they're in school uniform.
So firstly, I think let's pause with the criminal justice use in the system and in the legal system as it is. Yeah, I understand they are not minors. There may be majors in terms of the law and the criminality that follows them and everything that comes with that. But I think that the first point is let's look at it as we're dealing with learners here. Um, Whether now you are categorizing learners as adults or because they are 18, but essentially you're dealing with learners that are in school uniform, learners that are in school, and there's many reasons that result to learners even being in school in the ages of 18. That can be drawn from many systemic reasons, which would see learners continue to be retained for indefinitely in some grades and schools not utilizing the promotion and progression policy to ensure that learners are progressing with their cohorts. So it's important that we view this in a lens of some of those intricacies in terms of why learners of the age of 18 and even older are still in school. It's because of the use of, or maybe the failure to use the promotion and progression policy to ensure that these learners are progressing. So importantly now, we know that we're dealing with learners, whether you are calling them as adults or you're calling them as people that should be criminalized and be followed by the criminal sanctions. But essentially, you're dealing with learners that are in schools, learners that are bound by the school policies and the school laws that regulate the conduct of learners in schools. So the criminal justice system follows after you haven't even used the school policies. So when the conduct of this nature happens within a school premise, it is not a good or it's not even the attempt to use criminal justice system for a conduct that is happening in a school or by learners. The first use of laws and the first trigger of laws that applies in the conduct of these learners is that of South African Schools Act and many other policies that deal with learner discipline. But we see the sensationalization of this issue and the criminalization of the children that are involved. But not to get us wrong, equal education does not condone violence. Equal education has been condemning violence against learners, learner to learner, teacher to learners. We've been working on this to ensure that all of the children that are within the schooling system, their rights are staying, ensuring that they are protected and ensuring that they're able to learn and until they're adults. But that is not to say that the criminal justice system cannot follow these children. But we must be careful as a society what we are doing in terms of the systems that we're using in as far as it relates to these matters. Because there's nothing that precludes the department to act with it or within its own policies outside the criminal justice system. But doesn't also the people that have been affected, they are within their own rights to institute criminal charges against
Okay.
those that have perpetrated the violence.
Let
Yeah.
me let me give you another scenario. What if the same boys, the 18-year-olds, it's away from the school premises, they're not in school uniform, and they beat up a child on the street? Do we still call them children and still not call them to account as adults?
I think the scenario is different and the context is also different because you're saying now that you're dealing with an adult that is not in school uniform and adults that is not in school.
Yes, but they're the same
Um,
kids, they're just not at school. They're the same children who are learners, but they're not at school. And they're in the
but
street in their neighborhood and they beat up someone who's 2 years younger than them.
yes, the laws that relate to the conduct of that because now you're also accepting that they're children.
I'm not
But in a
actually, to be honest with you. I mean, if my
I'm I'm
child, if
I'm
my
listening to the
ch-
point that you are making
yes, what I'm
because I'm
saying
following
is
from that.
that those 18-year-olds are men,
Mm-hmm.
and men
Mm-hmm.
cannot be beating up children. We can't be
Yes.
hiding behind school uniforms, Yolisa, surely.
No, definitely, we accept that. And I think it's not a correct connotation to say that 18-year-olds are hiding behind a school uniform. You can look around in the schools that we have in South Africa. You have many 18-year-olds. So how do we get to regulate those 18-year-olds within the schooling system? And as far as it relates to the protection of their rights to basic education and ensuring that their
Mm,
learning continues and to be protected and enjoying the same rights as those of learners in schools. So in your example, and accepting that the position that you're proposing and you've put it to me that now that they are not in school
mm,
uniform and they are committing a crime outside school, then the criminal justice system follows. Um, because it's not a matter that relates to schooling, it's not a matter
mm.
that relates to the school premises. Their
Okay.
conduct is then not regulated
All
by the
right.
South
So
African
so
Schools Act.
so they get away with it because they're at school.
It's not getting away from it because they're in school. They are protected and having the same rights as those of learners because they're inside classrooms and they are same as other learners that are in
Mm,
school. and therefore they should be enjoying the same protections of law in as far as it relates to their right to basic education.
You're all right.
And that is to ensure that all of these learners, by the way, are
Yeah.
rehabilitated and protected as well.
All right. We've run out of time, but very briefly, what about the child that got beaten up? Surely he can't be expected to face the same children in school the next day because they've not been taken away. They're not safe.
Definitely, accepting that. So the most important thing that we've been calling for all learners, whether even you are facing violence directly or indirectly, is how do you ensure that learners are getting psychosocial support services, and not for psychosocial support
Mm,
services to be a privilege for learners, by the way, to ensure that psychosocial support is part of their right to education, and they are also getting support to ensure that they um get to learn within an environment and within the violence that they've faced
right.
and get professional help. But in terms of in
Yeah.
ensuring that the
Yolisa,
long-term solution.
unfortunately, we've run out of time. And I wish we could have
Okay.
talked about this a lot longer, but I get your point. And I think as a parent, most of us defer to protection, but we understand that those kids are also victims in some way. Thank you so much indeed for joining us on the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I wish we had more time.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll revisit this for sure, I promise. Okay,
All right.
it's 7 o'clock.